March 18th, Mike Tyson, Razor Ruddock dies. If he doesn't die, it doesn't count. If he's not dead, it doesn't count.
Hi guys, welcome to another edition of Box Talk. It's me again, Ade. This is our top 5 fighters of the 1980s. As you know, me and Ryan have been doing our top 5 fighters. We've done of the generation, that was kind of the 2000s up to 2000 and present. We've done a 90s video, and this is the 80s. This is by far the toughest thing I've had to do with Box Talk. I'm not even joking. I started this list at 25 people. That's without digging deep. This is me just trying 25 names that I think should be in there, and I've had to whittle it down to 5. So you know what? You're going to critique this list, and you can. Number 5, the Hawk, Aaron Pryor. Look, a lot of you guys might not know this guy, but look, if you haven't found out about him, go to YouTube and try and watch this guy fight. Unbelievable lightweight. Some people, believe it or not, have him as the #1 lightweight in history of boxing. Not me personally, but some people have the #1 lightweight. Everyone talks about the Fabulous 4. They really should have been the Fabulous 5. He missed out on big fights against Sugar Leonard because of Sugar Leonard's detached retina, and Duran because of some legal problems. Would this guy beat him? I think so. Had the fight of the decade against Aguero. I think that's how you pronounce his name, and he won that as well. Aaron Pryor, number 5. I think genuinely, when you look at champions, I think this guy is probably the most underrated boxer of the last 30 to 40 years, Michael Spinks. Look, this guy was a light heavyweight detonator. Forget that he won the 1976 Montreal Olympics. Everyone seems to forget that. Had to do it the hard way. Had to turn up and fight at small shows. They didn't get the hoorah that most Olympic gold medalists get, and went up. Light heavyweight, dominated. IBF, WBA, WBC, dominated, and then done something that everyone thought he couldn't do: stop the run of Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes was going to go and break Rocky Marciano's record. He was at 48-0, and they're supposed to fight this small guy called Michael Spinks, and Michael Spinks beat him. Not only beat him in the rematch. Don't think of Michael Spinks as the guy that was followed by Tyson. Think of the Michael Spinks before that. 1 defeat. Michael Spinks is number 4. Number 3, Larry Holmes. Look, we're talking about arguably top 5 heavyweight of all time. Best jab in the business. 20 consecutive title defenses, only bettered, if I'm wrong, Muhammad Ali and Vladimir Klitschko recently. But we're talking a better era of boxing, no disrespect to Vladimir. This guy was a machine. 48-0 through the 70s and the 80s. Could have been #1, but a lot of his career, a lot of the best bits spanned in the 70s. But regardless, Larry Holmes, for me, one of the best heavyweights of all time. 48-0 until he fought Spinks. Number 3. Number 2, man, you guys are going to say you've left out some big names. I have left out some huge names. Huge! What can I do? Number 2, I'm Mike Tyson. Look, it's tough. I had to get him in there somewhere, so he's in there for me. We're talking, look, Tyson started professional boxing in 1985. End of 1986, Tyson had 27 bouts. You heard right. 27 fights in 20 months. Go figure that. 28th fight, won the title. Tyson, me and ran down a video and we said Roy Jones Jr. was called Superman. If he was Superman, then Tyson was Incredible Hulk, Superman 4, all in one in the 80s. People in the 80s were thinking this was the best boxer of all time. Obviously it went derailed, but in 1980s, Tyson was undefeated. 37 fights, 37 wins, I think 31 knockouts. Ridiculous. Number 1, Marvin Hagler. Look, it's hard for me to go against anyone other than Marvin Hagler. Who am I to argue about the Rings magazine fight of the decade? This guy was just a machine. For me, look, Monzon and Hopkins would have an argument, but for me, the #1 middleweight there's ever been. Unbelievable wins against Duran, Hearns, and the controversial loss against Leonard. Marvin Hagler's my #1. Ryan's up next, boys. Gotta beat that. It's not easy. It's not easy.
How you doing, guys? This is Ryan, and sitting down watching Ade's list. Very, very good list. As you know, me and Ade don't plan these videos, and I said sometimes we might have to do a joint list. Our lists are similar but different. So I'm gonna give you my top 5s of the 80s, and like always, it's gonna cause controversy because lists are subjective. Number 5. Number 5 for me is Iron Mike Tyson. Now, when I say number 5, you think, well, Tyson could have been rated higher. I say, guess what? He could have, but we're talking about the whole of 80s, and this is what is the premise of my video. It's the whole of the 80s. Tyson turned pro in 85. He won a world title in 86. He unified in 87. He was the lineal champion in 88. Within 3 years, he shut down the whole division. Under heavyweight terms, tell me who's done that. 1 year pro, 2nd year champion, 3rd year unified, second year unified, 3rd year lineal. That says number 4 on my list is controversial. Sugar Ray Leonard. A lot of people have Leonard number 1 of the 80s, and his resume speaks for itself. But this is a list of the 80s. Sugar Ray Leonard had only fought consistently as a professional boxer in the 80s from 80 to 82. From 82 to the end of 89, he fought only 5 times. So for me to rank him any higher is hard. I could have unranked him and said, guess what, he didn't fight enough to consider ranking as the 80s, as the whole 10 years. But when you take into account who he fought in the 80s, i.e. Roberto Duran, Thomas Hearns, Marvin Hagler, and he didn't fight some of these guys once, he fought them twice. Yeah, you have to give him credit, you have to give him recognition for what he done. He is legitimately one of the best fighters of all time. Many people have him in the top 10 or 15 of all time, and there's a reason why. Let's go with number 3. Number 3 was the toughest spot to fill in this place. I have 2 people on the list who careers are tied together. One's a heavyweight, one was a light heavyweight. Both are dominant champions from the 70s into the 80s. Both had dominant runs together, and they both met each other in a fight for Rocky Marciano's record. I'm talking about Michael Spinks and Larry Holmes. I couldn't split them down the line, but I had to split them, and I split them and made Larry Holmes my number 3. And the reason why, generally considered, he is the better fighter by historians. Number 2 has to be Thomas the Hitman Hearns. My favourite fighter. Yes, he lost to, he lost to in the 80s. He lost to Leonard, he lost to Hagler, and he lost to Iron Barkley. The difference is though, look who he fought in the 80s. He had 30, maybe 40, maybe 30 fights in the 80s of the top guys. Always a champion, always a titleist, always a contender. He was always there. He jumped through the weight classes consistently through the 80s. In my opinion, that is the most consistent operator of the 80s. From the beginning of 1980 down to 89, the most consistent operator, hands down. And my final fight on my list is the marvelous Marvin Hagler. I don't need to talk about Hagler, you all know what Hagler done. But what made Hagler special is that he was never given nothing. He had to fight for his marquee spot, making him fight more than the Golden Boy Leonard, making him fight more in the era when Holmes was there, making him fight more through everything else. What made him special, he had that grittiness, that toughness, and he fought with that grit and toughness. That's my top 5. There you go, guys, that's the list. Good list, Eddie.
No, you know what,
I was surprised you didn't have Leonard. He's your favourite fighter of all time.
Yeah, people are going to say, oh, Eddie, you didn't have Leonard. Leonard is my favourite fighter of all time, hands down. But like Ryan said, he was so inconsistent in terms of fights. He was almost what Mayweather kind of turned into be in the 2000s. Worse than that, do you know what I mean? He just didn't have enough fights, and that's my problem.
Again, Leonard was a pro boxer and official boxer from 80 to 82. After that, he had one fight in 84. Then he had the fight with Marvin Hagler. Then he had the fight with Hagler, with Duran. And
then he had a rematch with Hearns.
And then he fought I don't know, Donnie Lalonde. The point I'm making is that he was not active, so I couldn't give him a ranking. I could have took him off this completely, but I think who he fought in that time are both legitimate all-time greats.
Yeah, no, to be fair, that's what squeezes him in. The people he fought in that short space of time makes him in your list, and I can see why. For me, I said to Ryan before we filmed, I said, look, I've got a problem with Hearns and Leonard right now. I literally cannot split them. I could easily do the list again tomorrow and I squeeze both of them in, but I just kind of left them out.
When you fight 3 of the top 30 fighters of the past 100 years, and you fight them, and again you fight most of them twice.
And you win against all of them. You get wins out of all of them.
It's hard not to rank him.
I was going to put Hearns in. I didn't put Hearns. You put Hearns in yours. I was going to put Hearns in just purely based on that fight with Hagler. Obviously, Aaron Pryor got the fight of the decade, but to me, the fight of the decade was Hagler Hearns. It's the most. I believe it's the most. It's more talked about than Ali Fraser. I think that fight is talked about so much.
Because Ali Fraser was a war, but it's a 15-round war.
This was just three rounds
of craziness.
Of guys, craziness.
Again, I'm a Hearns fan, so maybe I'm biased, but when you look at the whole career of 10 years, a decade, he's the most consistent player.
Is number second. No, you had number 5. I think the reason I had Tyson as number second or number 2 is because
cultural impact.
The cultural impact, and 27 fights in 20 months. It's just not normal.
Tyson changed boxing.
Tyson is boxing. Works there, and they said who's the best fighter of all time. And he said Mike Tyson. That's someone who doesn't know anything about boxing. Just that's how people think. You know what I mean? People still think he is the best heavyweight of all time. So he had to be in there.
I just think what Tyson done in 3 years is nothing short of amazing.
Alright, name some names that kind of just missed out.
Okay, let's go with the honourable mentions list. I have Aaron Pryor, Wilfred Benitez, Alexis Arguello.
Let's go back to Arguello, for example. Arguello, for people who might not know Arguello, I think he was Ecuadorian or one of those countries, and he literally started as a featherweight and literally ran through the weight. I think during the 80s, he went from a featherweight to a welterweight and got beat by Aaron Pryor.
And the Holyfield, he done what Tyson done as well. Came out and took over the whole division in a short period of time. Azuma Nelson. I even had names pop in my head. I wouldn't make the list, but came to my head like Don Curry. I mean,
bloody hell.
And then if you go back, you started to have the early part of Chavez and Pernell Whitaker.
Duran? Duran's top one, because Duran, you know the problem with Duran is? He got smoked by a lot of those guys.
So Duran was out of his weight class, but Duran was such a beast in the 70s, the 80s couldn't compete.
Who would have won, Duran or Pryor, lightweight?
Duran.
Pryor off cocaine, Duran. Pryor had a cocaine problem, boy.
Listen,
all the boxers in the 80s and 70s had a cocaine problem.
The drug of the 80s, isn't it? Alright, there we go, guys.
No, honestly, there you go, guys. So that's the 80s. 70s is coming next week, but what do you think of the 80s? Get your fight. Who have we missed? We probably have missed someone because we've done it so rushed and quickly, but I don't think we have. But who have we missed? Get your list in, your top 5. Tell us why. Don't just list names as people do. Tell us why they're in the top 5 if you can. And thanks for watching another edition of Boxtalk. Remember, tweet, subscribe, share this video. It's a good one. Thanks for watching again. Cheers.